And it is a great pleasure to welcome to the Book Talk segment today a woman who has become well known as the bloggess. She has a memoir out, just came out not too long ago, doing very well. It's called Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir. We're joined by Jenny Lawson today, the bloggess. Jenny, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I'm hanging out in my pajamas. Couldn't be better.
You can't beat that. I had a chance to read through the book, really enjoyed it, and you do have a unique way of writing, and I think that's what's kind of caught the public's fancy, if you will. I mean, it's a unique way of telling your life story. Congratulations on that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you so much. It came as a giant shock to me that people were reading it, so I was like, awesome.
Now, you didn't start out to be an author. I mean, you started doing blogs, is that right? How you started doing the writing, just on different websites?
Well, I started the book first, but it was really, I was just writing it for my daughter because I wanted to remember all of these family stories and get them down. But I was having a hard time trying to get myself to write every day, and so I thought, I'll start a blog because it'll kind of teach me a little more discipline. And I was writing for the Eastern Chronicle at the time, and I kept getting in trouble for writing inappropriate things. And so I thought, I'll start my own blog. And so I did, and I kind of was able to find my voice and find my audience. And I think that kind of helped me to shape the story. And I also think it was helpful because I think a lot of blog-to-book books, you find a lot of kind of repetition because you use your best stories for your blog. But because I knew I was going to write a book first, I saved all my best stories for the book.
You mentioned a word there, finding your voice. I think that's something every person that attempts to write has to do, or even if you've been broadcasting, finding your voice. And you've definitely found that. Is that something you always kind of had growing up, or did you have to kind of, like you said, experiment with that, I guess, with your blogs, right?
I think I've always had it, but what I didn't know was what worked and what didn't. I think, you have innately your own particular voice, but being able to showcase it on the blog and see like what hit with people and what, hit them emotionally or comedically, or what did, maybe they just go, oh, okay, or that's funny, or whatever. And I was kind of able to learn from that it's okay to go that extra step. That even at the risk of offending people, it's going to be worth it, because if you make something that no one hates, no one will ever love it either.
Yeah, if you just go safe all the time or vanilla, then it might be a nice story, but you definitely add some spice to it. I think that's what makes it interesting.
Yes, there's lots and lots of spice in there.
Well, what's your process? I mean, just reading through the book, it feels as if you're talking to the reader. At least that's the impression I get, as opposed to you writing it down. It's more of a conversation in a sense, or a monologue, I guess would be a better word. But when you can do that, I think that you've kind of done the best you can as far as writing goes, when you feel the person is talking to you through words, printed words.
Yeah, that is kind of what I strive for, is to feel like we're having a conversation and that the reader is part of that conversation, which I think either really works for the person or really confuses the person. So that was kind of my process. I had a really hard time with finishing the book, though. It actually took me about 11 years to write the whole thing. The actual writing process itself did not come easily, and it seems like it would flow very organically because my book is filled with run-on sentences and non sequiturs and ridiculousness. But I really labored over every sentence and rewrote and rewrote and rewrote, which I think surprises a lot of people, because you read it and you kind of feel like you really enjoy it, and you also have ADD at the same time. Like you feel like you're contagious ADD because of all of the insanity that's going on inside the book.
It's kind of a stream of consciousness kind of way of writing, and that's interesting. You say you would go back and rewrite certain sentences over and over again. That kind of goes against what stream of consciousness is, but it works. So whatever.
It does. It does. Yeah, I would always leave the base, whatever came to mind, I would always leave the base of it. But I would always come back and be like, is there a funnier way of saying that? Or is there a way, and basically I do the same thing with blogging, where every time I write a blog, I go back and I try to always cut half of it out. Because, Shakespeare, I think, said brevity is the soul of wit, and it totally is true. There's always extra stuff that you put in there that you don't think about, and then later you can go back and be like, okay, you know what? Do I need this sentence? Nope. Do I need this? Is it worth them reading 2 paragraphs just so I can have one funny joke? I'm probably going to lose them after those 2 paragraphs, so let's take that whole thing out and just save that joke for another time.
You talk in the book, for people who may not be aware, you're growing up in a town in Texas, kind of the story of your growing up and being childhood and family and all that. So it's a rich area, I imagine, just from reading your book. It's the different people that you've dealt with.
Yes, yeah, it is extremely rich material. My father was a taxidermist. My mom's a cafeteria lady. We grew up in weird poverty, but also with a great childhood. And it's interesting that people will read it and they will either think, oh, what a horrible childhood you had with poisonous water in your house and these terrible things that happened to you, or they'll read it the way that I intended it to be read and say, what a great childhood you had, because I did. In spite of the fact that it was weird and bizarre and the strangest things happened to me, those were the things that made me who I am.
And just to give the audience, fair warning, there's some adult language in it, just to let them know, but
Yes,
it doesn't take away from the humor of it, but there is some language in there. Have you gotten any feedback on that, or?
I did get one. It was one of the first reviews that I ever got, and it came out before the book. So the book debuted #1 on the New York Times bestseller list,
Sure.
and so after that, it got a lot of attention. But before that, there was one review that came out, a pre-review, and it said something like, Jenny Lawson has a potty mouth, and I was like, well, I can't argue with that. But that's the only time that anyone has said anything really about it, except for one person on, I want to say it was Goodreads or something, who said something like, there was a curse word on the cover, and so I'm giving this book 1 star. And everybody was like, you literally judged the book by the cover. Really? Awesome.
And one of the great things about media today, like you mentioned, maybe not appropriate for certain newspapers, but like you said, the blogs, books, internet now, you can be a little more freer with the material. So that's a good thing, I think.
Exactly. And I think also, there's a difference between using profanity in a malicious sort of way or an angry sort of way, or using it in a, bringing people in kind of it's my grandfather is a minister, and he bought the book for all the ladies in his elderly Sunday school class, and I was like, oh, Papa, that's a terrible idea. And he was like, no, they love it. And they all would come to the book signings, these little old ladies, and they'd just be adorable, and they'd be like, we don't really like the cursing, but we just love your story. We just love the story.
And they are great stories. They're funny, and some of these things you went through, I wonder how you made it through it, but you feel better after reading it. I know we have limited time today, Jenny. Give out a website again. I know people have already been getting the book, but want to remind the people, what's your website?
www.thebloggess.com. That's it.
And you write a blog almost every day, don't you, on there?
I try to, at least every couple of days. I used to do it every day, and then I started writing the book, and I'm working on book 2, which won't come out for another couple of years. So now I'm every couple of days.
And you get a lot of hits on that blog. You're one of the top.
Couple million a month, yeah.
It's amazing. It's more than a lot of newspapers get, so that's great.
Yeah, I give full credit on that to my audience, because if you read the comments are so much funnier than the post. And I have this amazing audience of hysterical, smart, funny people who just make this conversation get bigger and bigger, and everyone wants to join in. So it is way less about me and way more about my awesome readership.
Let's pretend this never happened. A Mostly True Memoir is the name of the book. I've been talking with Jenny Lawson today, the bloggess. And Jenny, appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can do it again when the next book comes out. Thanks for joining us.
That was awesome. Thank you.